As technology advances, so do forms of artistic expression. And although we may think of centuries-old masterpieces when we think of sacred art, artists are constantly using new tools to continue making works inspired by their faith. Ximena Palencia uses digital illustrations and animation to bring joy and beauty into people's lives. Adept in many forms of digital art, Ximena brings a whimsical style to illustrations of saints, inspirational stickers, motion graphics, and much more. And if you love dogs, Ximena has definitely got something for you too. So come along with me as we learn a bit more about this very talented artist. Ximena, thank you so much for having us here today. I know you're used to being behind the camera, but it is such a pleasure to chat with you in person.
No, thank you for coming.
We want to start with you telling us, who is Ximena?
First of all, I'm a daughter of God. I'm Catholic. I'm a wife, almost 8 years now, and I'm mom of 5. I have 3 in heaven and 2 little ones here on earth. I was born and raised in Guatemala, and then for college, I came to the States. I studied at Ringling College of Art and Design. And that pushed me to here, to California, and start fulfilling my dream of being an artist and an animator.
So when did you start drawing? Was it at a very young age?
Yes, in school, art was my favorite subject. And during my holiday vacations, I would be in art classes, painting classes. When my parents bought us DVDs, I would go into like the bonus features, and I would just watch how the artists from Disney would draw the characters and create the movies. And that's when I pause the movie, have my sketchbook, do the drawing. Like I always told my parents that I wanted to be an animator. So they were always trying to help me find like different courses or like workshops for me to participate. And so everything that I did was towards that goal.
You started with paper and pencil, right, as the young kids do, but how did you translate to digital illustration and animation?
I started digital illustrations once I started college. So even for my portfolio in college, I had to do pen and pencil and paintings, so everything was very traditional. And in there, they presented me with the technology for me to start working in a tablet or with like big screens where you can just draw in the computer. I received illustration classes and then animation classes. Both of them are storytellings, but in illustration, you only have one shot of the story, and the animation, you create the whole world.
Now, did you find it difficult to transition from paper to digital?
Yes, because with every medium that I learned, there was always the challenge of learning how to do it. From paper to pencil to painting, it was hard because then you didn't have the eraser. You had to learn theory of color and how to like use the brush. And with digital art, you have to learn how to use the program. The layers are different. I like digital. You can go back pretty easily. If you make a mistake, you just like erase or go back layers. If you're painting, if you like a version earlier, you cannot just go back to an earlier version. You have to continue or adjust it. My digital works, they were just like school projects. So I had really good teachers that helped me to start first in paper, then scan it and use that as a base, and then I will draw on top of it. And that's still how I do it sometimes. I will work on paper, and then I'll take a picture and then tweak it a little bit more in digital, and then add the painting digitally.
Now, we know you very well from creating religious content. Can you tell us how that happened, how that started?
It started when I interned at Family Theater. When I graduated from college, I moved to California. I started working for Catholic Central, first as a production assistant, but I was lucky enough to work on some graphics. Some of the time in the script, they were asking for something specifically of a saint or of Jesus, and I couldn't find the image in the internet, so I decided to start drawing them. And I used my illustrations to animate what the script was asking for.
And where does your inspiration come from?
If I have to do a drawing of the Holy Family. I would start to a little bit meditating on how is the interaction of my family, you know? There was one time that I had to create a Holy Family, just like being together. As parents, we just like to be with our kids. So I drew St. Joseph and Our Lady giving Jesus a bath. So that was, I always try to put like personal experiences in my drawings.
Do you feel like you can define it as its own art style?
I would think my art style is more like cartoon, but in realistic settings and environments. For example, if I have a saint, I will try to make it cartoonish, but at the same time be true of how the saint was.
Now, do you have any projects that you have worked with your husband?
All my saints illustrations, it's a group project for us because once you stare at a project for too long, you don't really see the flaws or the things that you can make better. So when I'm working on an illustration, I'm always asking him like, hey, what do you think about this pose? Or what about the skin color? And he can pick up the little details. We worked together on an illustration specifically where it was like one little boy with two angels and Winston. And that was our way to go through the grief of the loss of our little ones. We lost them through miscarriages. So it was just like working together on personal illustrations have it just been really good for us, for our marriage. And we do have some ideas that he wants to develop. He likes to come up with the idea and then I'll do the illustrations and then he'll do like the videos because he's faster with filming and stuff. So we like to be creative together.
Well, I love that you guys have created something so beautiful and also found healing working together. Do you have a favorite commission that you've done so far?
It's hard to pick a favorite because each project is special in their own way. From Catholic Central and Lente Católico, I've really enjoyed the St. Joseph episode because I think that was my first episode that I was able to do most of the graphics. So I like the creativity of creating St. Joseph as a superhero, doing some like missions and explosions and him saving the Holy Family. So that's one of my favorites ones so far. The most challenging, it's my thesis, the short film that I did.
Yeah.
And it's because I had to learn how to write a script, how to create characters, design them, animating them. So it was like a very 2 long years of just working on them, and like it was like my dream come true, you know, like I could see the fruit of the hard work.
I'm very curious as to what happened in Family Theater. You started as a graphics, right? And then ended up as an editor. Can you tell us about that?
Well, I started doing graphics for them, and first it was just like one graphic per episode. And then it slowly started to increase the amount of graphics that I was doing per episode. And I got the opportunity to start editing as well. Wow. But I've never edited anything except my short film. Yeah. Which, you know, like it over there, I could decide how I wanted, like the creative aspect, but here like I had to work with other people and it was like a very fast pace, the episodes, so I had to learn a little bit that and at the same time to make it very coherent.
Now there's clearly been divine intervention there and I'm sure you see it as well, but did you ever have, I don't know, a doubt or wonder why am I editing when I'm, you know, I want to be doing graphics?
I think with every project that I start, that it's something new, I always kind of like freak out a little bit. Both my parents, my brother and Ricardo, they're always being like, you can do it. It's just, it will take maybe a little bit more time, but you can do it. You will never be able to master something in one sitting. Like you have to practice and practice. And that's with a sport, that's with your job. So that's what I did. And I was able to work for many Catholic Central episodes and then to Lente Católico. And now I feel more confident editing that I did before.
Is there something that you would, like a word of advice that you give to people who want to get into the medium and especially in the religious sector?
Just start drawing, because sometimes if you overthink too much, you will never do it. It happened to me before that I was like, I wanted to start doing the illustrations aside from the episodes that I was doing. But I was always like, I'll do it tomorrow, and then it never happened. So I think if you want to start doing it, just choose one saint, choose one topic, and start just drawing. Like I know sometimes the goal is like I want to sell them, but sometimes it's not God is not asking you to do that. Sometimes it's just like you just have to do it for you, for your family, and doors start to open once you start putting your art out there.
So Ximena, we're currently in your living room, which is very cozy, but where in your home is it that you like to work the most?
We live in an apartment, so it's pretty tight, and it's usually here, it's the sofa. Kids usually are just playing while I'm working, or if I need to go to the kitchen to do some stuff, I just grab my iPad and I bring the work with me, basically.
The beauty of technology. Now I see this book, this prayer book, and I know it's very, very special and very exclusive as well.
Well, this was a priest, Don Julio, in Guatemala. He's the priest of Santa Maria, Reina de la Familia, and he is very involved with the catechism of the kids. So he asked for, very specifically, for a prayer book where kids could have all their night prayers and their, Our Fathers, Hail Marys with an image. So it was only like the line work. He didn't want any color, specifically to invite the kids to, while they're praying, start painting, to remember that prayer specifically.
I feel like for me that I'm a visual learner, if there is an image next to whatever it is that I have to memorize or learn, definitely helps, especially for little ones.
I think so. I think most of the kids have been very happy to receive this, and we're starting to think about more prayers to add to this book. I always wanted to involve the kids in the images. So in the Our Father, you have a kid hugging our Lord, the guardian angel. I decided it was my son and my dog are in there.
And that makes it very relatable for the kids,
Yeah.
Because they see themselves in these pictures, things that they do every day.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That was what we were hoping for. It's like a visual representation of the 7 sacraments.
I feel like this is useful even for adults like myself, to finally, sometimes, because we learned this when we were little. So maybe, I don't know, maybe we forget, or having this visual representation is just very beautiful, makes it really stay in our minds.
Yeah.
Now, I'm very curious about this specific piece. Can you talk to us about it?
Sure. Well, there's an artist in Guatemala who was my acrylic painting teacher. His name is Mario, and he puts sand on top of the canvas to create more texture. So I got this and I brought them all the way from Guatemala so I can start painting them. And what I like about this is that you have to work in layers, similar to what you do in the digital artwork. So you start from shadow all the way to the highlights. It's a different technique because you cannot paint like a normal canvas because it has textures. So you have to go very fine. It's a slow process, but it's worth it because I like the texture a lot. This is a saint that I'm currently working on. As you see here, it's just like a loose sketch. And I like to have different versions. So for this one, it's that's where I'm starting the base color.
Now, is this a personal project? Or
yeah, it's a personal project. It's a gift for my daughter. And Saint Therese has been granting us so many favors, many roses from heaven. Since getting to know her story, we just felt that she's a good intercessor. This is a set of Our Lady of Guadalupe and Jesus of the Divine Mercy. It's done digitally.
Where did you find that you added your special touch in this painting? For example, the face, right, is very very your type of art style.
Right. And I think the coloring too. I tend to go to the blues a lot in my artwork.
Is it difficult to put your own touch without feeling like maybe you're copying or you're borrowing? Yeah.
It is very difficult because you have to be very careful not to exactly copy it, but to be true. To Jesus and how they are represented, because that's how people know him.
Ximena, thank you so much for welcoming us and sharing how your faith really inspires your many talents in the media.
Of course, it's been a pleasure to have you here.
I love that your artwork really shows how we can embrace the present while also holding on to this childlike sense of wonder in our lives. And let that be a reminder for us that we can always embrace our faith and portray it in our everyday creativity and expressions.